Atami, the man who was shown in the previous story finding gold buried in the ground, is the same man who killed many Soviet soldiers to protect that gold. Those soldiers were also committing cruelty against his country. Now, when he finally returns home, his entire world changes. This story takes place 2 years after the first one. It is the year 1946. World War II has ended, and Atami has come back to his home. When he reaches his house, he realizes that his family is no longer there. The Soviet army has killed them. This loss completely breaks him. Filled with grief, Atami decides that he cannot stay in this place anymore. The land, called Karelia, once belonged to Finland, but after an agreement between Finland and the Soviet Union, it was handed over to the Soviets so that Finland could have lasting peace. Atami wants to rebuild his home again in Finland, in memory and honor of his family. For this reason, he carefully writes numbers on every piece of wood from his house. He dismantles the house, loads the wooden logs onto his truck, places his dog inside, and sets off, hoping to leave Soviet territory as soon as possible and rebuild his home in Finland. At the same time, we are shown a man imprisoned in a Siberian jail. He is now a captive. A Soviet general comes to meet him and reminds him that during the war, he went with his battalion to Karelia, which is now Soviet land. There, he carried out a massacre, killing an entire family. That family was Atami's. The general explains that Atami was a deadly commando who killed 300 Red Army soldiers and became very famous for it. The general orders the prisoner, Igor, to kill Atami. He promises him anything he needs and offers him complete freedom if he succeeds. Igor accepts the deal. Meanwhile, Atami is traveling with his truck when 2 army officers suddenly stop him on the road. He notices another vehicle approaching from behind and immediately understands that their intentions are not good. They ask for his passport. Atami hands it over. The passport is taken to the officer sitting in the other vehicle, who turns out to be Igor, the same man who killed Atami's family. As soon as Igor sees the name, he realizes this is Atami. He coldly suggests that since Atami loves his old house so much, they should burn him alive along with it. Atami watches everything through his side mirror. He sees one officer preparing a bottle filled with fire and the other readying his gun. He understands that he is about to be attacked. Before they can act, Atami kills both of them. As he escapes in his truck, one soldier jumps inside, but Atami knocks him unconscious with a single strike. He then realizes that his gun has no bullets. When the soldier regains consciousness, Atami forces him to load the gun. Another army truck is sent after him. After driving some distance, Atami stops his truck and kills all the soldiers in the pursuing vehicle. By now, Igor also arrives in his jeep. Atami sees him. One soldier with Igor tries to attack Atami, but before he can fire, Atami shoots him dead. Igor stands there unarmed. Atami does not know that Igor killed his family, so he spares his life, only shooting the tires of Igor's jeep before driving away. Igor quickly calls backup through the radio. Armored soldiers begin chasing Atami. Igor repairs his jeep and joins the pursuit himself. Atami knows more soldiers will follow, so he changes his route. However, Igor is clever and figures this out. He informs the armored unit, and once again they close in on Atami. Atami fires at them, but they are wearing bulletproof jackets and helmets, so the shots have little effect. One of the armored soldiers shoots back and wounds Atami. His truck nearly flips, but he manages to regain control. One armored soldier climbs onto the truck and fires from above, but Atami dodges the attack and knocks him down. Igor follows closely behind, and from his moving jeep, his own soldier is killed during the chaos. With bravery and sharp tactics, Atami kills all the armored soldiers. One last attacker sets fire to the wooden logs on Atami's truck. Inside the truck lies the body of a soldier carrying dynamite. Atami cleverly throws that body onto Igor's jeep. Just before the explosion, Igor jumps out and survives. Furious, Igor calls fighter planes through the radio to attack Atami. After driving some distance, Atami stops the truck, puts out the fire, and pours water on the engine, knowing his journey is far from over. His dog is completely safe. Suddenly, he notices the shadow of fighter planes above. He realizes an air attack is coming and immediately starts the truck again. The fighter planes begin firing continuously. Atami spots a place to hide and drives his truck into it. He knows the planes will soon destroy the entire area. He finds a massive wooden sheet and places it over his truck for cover. With a forest ahead, he escapes just before the area is bombed and disappears into the dense woods. Inside the forest, it becomes very difficult for the fighter planes to track him through the thick trees. However, one pilot finally spots the truck. The fighter plane flies very low, firing non-stop at Atami from behind. Atami notices the plane closing in, fully aware that the danger is far from over. When the fighter plane comes very close, Atami suddenly hits the brakes of his truck. The plane crashes straight into it, killing the pilot on the spot. Atami realizes that no one is chasing him anymore. To survive, he must escape the forest as quickly as possible. Before leaving, he carefully scans the sky, but sees no other aircraft. Believing the danger has passed, he drives out of the forest. Soon after, the second fighter plane finally spots Atami. The pilot opens heavy fire on the truck, but after some time, the plane runs out of bullets. Still determined to kill Atami, the pilot lowers the plane, clearly planning to ram the truck. Atami understands the move instantly. He fires his gun and cuts the ropes holding the wooden logs. Then he slams the brakes. The loose logs slide forward, and instead of hitting the truck, the plane crashes into the logs and explodes. Once again, Atami survives through intelligence, courage, and quick thinking. The pilot manages to escape using a parachute and survives the crash. As Atami reloads the logs onto his truck, the pilot suddenly appears in front of him. Furious, Atami walks toward him with anger, but then notices the pilot smiling. Something feels wrong. Atami looks up and sees a bombing plane approaching. He quickly finishes loading the logs, starts the truck, and escapes. The bombing plane drops multiple bombs, killing the pilot on the ground. Amid the explosions, Atami loses control and drives the truck into deep water. He first frees his dog to save its life, then jumps out himself as the truck sinks deeper. He refuses to lose the wooden logs of his home, so he dives down and unties the ropes. The logs float upward, but Atami runs out of oxygen and loses consciousness underwater. Moments later, the logs and his dog are seen floating, but Atami is nowhere in sight. Then he slowly rises to the surface, holding onto one of the logs. That piece of wood saves his life. His dog swims back to him, and Atami regains consciousness. Soon after, Igor arrives at the same spot where Atami drove into the water. He sends a soldier underwater by boat to search. The soldier reports that the truck is underwater, but there is no body and no wooden logs. Igor realizes that his battle with Atami is far from over. Atami is then shown having tied all the logs together into a raft. With his dog beside him, he reaches the other side of the sea. As he moves forward, he spots a tank near the coastline. Seeing weapons inside, he feels relieved. He repairs the tank and prepares it for battle once again. The Soviet-Finland border is very close, and he must reach Finland at any cost. Igor already knows Atami's plan and reaches the border first. Soon, Atami arrives at the border in the tank. If he crosses into Finland, the Soviet soldiers can no longer touch him. But for now, he is still on Soviet land, and heavy gunfire rains down on the tank. Atami ties the wooden logs of his house to the tank and keeps moving forward. No one understands his plan. He detonates the explosives attached to the tank, launching it forward toward Finland. However, the tank's belt breaks midair, and it fails to land on Finnish soil. This was Atami's plan all along, to cross the border by force. Now that it has failed, he knows capture is inevitable. He removes the handle of his knife and hides the blade inside his skin. He then frees his dog, sending it across the border into Finland. A soldier points a gun at Atami, but before anything happens, a general arrives and orders that Atami be taken to Siberia. Atami and the wooden logs of his house are loaded onto a train heading to Siberia. Inside the train, Igor enters the compartment where Atami is tied and hanging. He brutally tortures him and proudly confesses that he killed thousands during the war, including Atami's family. He describes how he mercilessly murdered Atami's wife and children. Only then does Atami realize that Igor is the man who destroyed his family. After Igor leaves, Atami loses control of his rage. Using all his strength, he breaks free from the ropes and crashes to the floor. A soldier enters the compartment, and Atami pulls out the hidden knife and kills him instantly. Outside, another soldier sees the body and jumps off the moving train in fear. Atami enters another compartment where many soldiers are sleeping. Some wake up, but Atami silently kills them one by one and locks the compartment from outside. He climbs onto the roof of the train, but hits a metal pipe and falls into another compartment where fully alert soldiers are waiting. This time, he grabs a machine gun and kills them all. Igor hears the gunfire and knows Atami is coming. He exits his compartment and sees chaos in the rear section of the train. Between the train cars is a carrier holding cargo. Igor disconnects the rear section of the train from the front. Atami comes out and watches Igor escape ahead of him. Igor enters the officer's compartment, furious, and kills everyone inside. The general begs for mercy, offering money, but Igor kills him as well and takes the cash. Meanwhile, Atami removes a cloth from the carrier and reveals a missile. He activates it. As the missile moves forward, the train cars also begin to move. Atami quickly reaches the front section where Igor is. A brutal fight breaks out between them. Both men beat each other violently. Frustrated, Igor screams, asking what kind of man Atami is and why he refuses to die. He strikes Atami hard, knocking him near the armed missile. Igor mocks him and asks if he has any last words. Atami opens his mouth and releases the loosened nuts from the missile carrier. In the next moment, the missile launches and slams into Igor's train car. The rear section where Atami stands has no engine and slows down, while Igor faces the missile head-on. The explosion kills Igor instantly, and Atami's revenge is finally complete. After 2 days of travel, Atami reaches the Finnish border in a train car, carrying the wooden logs of his home. Finnish soldiers stop him and ask for his ID. When they see his passport, they recognize him as the legendary commando who killed 300 Soviet soldiers alone. They salute him with respect. Atami enters Finland and begins rebuilding his house using the numbered wooden logs. He carefully reconstructs it exactly as it once was. Soon, some local people arrive with weapons. Atami prepares to fight, but they explain they are there to help. Together, they rebuild his home. With this, Atami's journey comes to an end.